Thank you very much. Nyaje?
Boa.
So one thing I think Nyokabi hasn't mentioned is that after many years in Nairobi, I learned Sheng instead of the proper Swahili. But I'm from Uganda, so I guess that doesn't come as a surprise. Now, my name is Rachael Akidi, and I'm a journalist and media strategist with Rebo Consult. And I'm going to be talking about the fear of change and overcoming fear when going through a change process. And I'll be sharing it really based as a story based on my personal experience. Now, I want to ask you to start imagining walking into your newsroom or into your workplace tomorrow and finding that everything that you're familiar with, that you know, is gone. You know, your desks and furniture, your computers as you knew them, your technology as you knew it, the old technology, and your familiar workflows, all gone. What would you do? All you have are plain walls, no branding, no identity, just a clean slate. What would you do? Now, that is what change looks like. Change does not come in form of a PowerPoint slide. It feels really ruffling whenever this happens, to people in different organizations. Change feels more like a storm, a storm that disrupts everything in its path. Now, what I've learned over the years is that people don't actually resist change. We don't resist change. What we resist is actually loss. Now, the media industry is evolving much faster than ever. And I think as we've heard over the last couple of days, we're experiencing digital disruption, shifts in audiences, changing demographics, artificial intelligence, and many other challenges. So change is happening, whether you like it or not. Now, these are some headlines from the last couple of years, and some of them from as recently as last month as well. These are headlines from January 2025. So these are from as recently as last month. So that is change. And that's the change that is affecting the media industry globally. Now, at the BBC, I was leading what I can only describe as a once-in-a-generation transformation. It was a privilege, turning the East Africa Bureau into the BBC's largest operation outside of the UK. The change included moving into a new building, a much bigger and modern space, launching new language services and new platforms, as well as modernizing, the old legacy services. Some of them had been around for more than 60 years, trying to transform these from, radio only into digital-first services. And of course, with such change comes growth. So it also included growing this newsroom from just 60 people to 300 people in just 1 year. I guess, that sounds exciting, right? But inside the newsroom, it wasn't excitement that we felt. It was fear. So the newsroom was buzzing, but it was not buzzing with innovation. It was buzzing with anxiety, with many wondering and asking, so many questions. What does this mean for me? I don't have skills for the new roles. Will I belong in this new setup? Will I be able to, get my head around the new technology that is being introduced? And will I still have a job after all this? And to be honest, at first, I thought the resistance was stubbornness. So as a leader, sometimes you look back and think, oh gosh, these guys are just being stubborn. So I thought it was stubbornness. But then I had to face the hard truth that even we as leaders were afraid. So how can you lead change when you're battling the same fear? How can you inspire confidence when you're doubting yourself? So we were not just battling the changes in workflows or changes in technology. We were battling fear. Fear of losing control, fear of irrelevance, fear of failure, and fear of an unknown future, amongst many other fears. And one thing I learned is that as a leader, you don't beat change fear by demanding change. You beat fear by bringing people into the change, by making it more of a collaboration rather than a command. So we stopped telling people about change, and we started showing them the opportunities it brought. In staff town hall meetings, in one-to-one conversations, in training sessions, we made one thing very crystal clear, that it wasn't just about future-proofing the business. It was about future-proofing them too, and future-proofing their careers, equipping them, with the skills that they needed to thrive, not just today within the BBC, but in the future, wherever that future took them. Because whether we liked it or not, that future was digital. For the media, the future is digital. And in fact, that there was an even greater threat or bigger risk of not adapting to the change and the transformation. And the threat was actually becoming irrelevant to the audiences we serve or the audiences we're targeting. And this is a threat that we all face if we don't change in the media industry. So we made a commitment and acknowledged this, that yes, we would make mistakes, and that sometimes we would even fail. But we would learn, we would adapt, and we would keep moving forward. Now, people always ask me, when did everything shift, during that transformation? And I always say, it wasn't in the boardroom, and it wasn't in a strategy document. I think it happened in the training room. And I'll never forget the moment when a veteran radio journalist who had swore he would never touch anything to do with social media, because as far as he was concerned, it wasn't a platform for serious journalism. I'll never forget the moment, he produced his first video, his digital video for Instagram. And then, something even more surprising happened. A number of the top resistors, I'll put that in quotes, are the ones who really pushed back against digital transformation the hardest. And I think for those who have worked in, traditional media, you'll understand what I'm talking about. They started following me on Twitter and, other social media platforms. Now, this might sound really, really small, but this wasn't a small win. It was actually a shift. Because the moment one person sees what's possible, the mindset of an entire newsroom, an entire workplace begins to change. And when we won, we celebrated those small wins. Getting people into social media sounded like a small win, but it was a big shift. So we celebrated, And, when we produced our first video that went viral and, garnered global attention, we celebrated. This was a video that we did in Ethiopia of a priest who used to climb up daily some very dangerous rocks in a place called Lalibela. We produced this, and it was one of the first videos we produced in our new setting, and it went viral. When we launched new social media, new platforms, new programs, we made sure we celebrated. And we celebrated with cakes. And I mean actual cakes in the state. No, seriously, we made every moment every milestone and big shift a moment. So I learned that small shifts and small wins always lead to big shifts. So the momentum matters. And now, actually, before I get into this, does anyone recognize the picture on the left? Those in the 9%, I think they probably do. That's a tape machine. So when I joined the BBC, that's what they were using for editing. I know many of you were not yet born, so you'll probably not recognize what that is. So when we think we have already, transformed, we are now, digital first, we figured it all out, then another wave of change arrives. Now AI is here. Audience consumption is changing. The media industry is evolving. And once again, we are experiencing the same fear, the same resistance. But I just want to ask one question. Will we learn from the past? Because in any disruption, there will always be an opportunity. And I think, as we heard earlier, rather than wrestling, with the disruption, we need to look at some of the opportunities that this disruption brings. And I think if we've learned anything from the past, it's that technology won't wait for you. The audiences won't wait for you. The industry won't wait for you. So I'll leave you with a couple of, questions just to mull over as we, come to the last day of this festival. What's the one change you need to make, but you keep putting off? And what's stopping you from acting on it? And what are you going to do about it, starting tomorrow or even today? These are just some questions for you to think about as we, close the conference, the festival today. And also, just a reminder, sorry that's not clear, I think something happened. But what I want you to remember as you think about those questions is that the future of the media doesn't belong to those who sit back and hope for the best. But it belongs to those who see the change coming, who smell the coffee, and then take the first step before it's too late. They don't wait to get disrupted. They take the first step. So thank you very much.